Good morning. This is John Heinrich from the Small Business Success School. Excuse me, we've got a few allergies out here in Arizona. Wanted to give you our forecast of what we think is going to happen in the 2025 year for business. And I've recorded this course 3 times. This will be the fourth. Microsoft got me one time, and that guy in the White House, Trump, got me the other 2 times by shifting various things. Anyway, overall, we think 2025 is probably going to be an average to above average year nationally. Of course, we're sitting here in Arizona and everything is local for all of you listening to this video. The key thing is the guy in the White House, Trump. He happens to be a classmate of mine at Wharton. So, and actually we do email back and forth. I think his staff does actually, but it goes to him, both on Twitter and actually to his cell phone. But I don't bother him on the cell phone. It's something I think he really needs to know about. Anyway, because Trump is somewhat unpredictable, so the forecast is probably somewhat unpredictable. Overall, we think we see economic growth nationally somewhere in the 3% range. Trump is going back a lot to his last term as president, and he's using a lot of the same plays, but he's got better people doing stuff for him, or hopefully will have. So we think the growth will actually be a little higher than it was when he left office the last time in 2020 or 2016. So that being said, what's likely to happen? First of all, we are somewhat uncertain as to what might happen to tax policy because there are two pieces to the tax puzzle. You don't always hear about them from the media, but there's the idea that he has to make the tax cuts that he enacted in his last term permanent. That's one piece. And then the other piece is he wants to reduce corporate taxes from 21 to 15%. Both of these things are likely to happen. I'm guessing that the finalization of the tax cuts will probably happen sometime between now and June, and then the cut in the rate will probably happen sometime in the third quarter. The thinking is that it'll have to happen earlier rather than later, so you all get the benefit of it. Now, that's on the federal side. Most of you are probably more as much concerned about the state side, and I think overall the trend is towards on corporations and individuals going towards zero tax. In Arizona, we got rid of our corporate tax 2 to 3 years ago. Nationally, I think the trend is the same. There is the matter in some states, the big northern blue states, of the SALT, which is state and local taxes, which are or are not deductible, but I don't know how many viewers we'll actually have from those states. We can't really tell. So that's topic one. The taxes overall are probably going to be stable to going down. The second big thing that I'm surprised has gotten not a lot of coverage and hasn't done anything yet is energy. First, Trump and Canada are wrangling about importing Canadian oil, and that'll probably resolve, and we'll continue to import until we ramp up our domestic production. But so far, the domestic producers, who are actually producing well above what they did in the last 4 years, like about 1 million barrels a day, haven't shown any push on Trump to really let them ramp up the other domestic areas like the Gulf and Montana and Pennsylvania and so forth. Lots could be done there with new rigs, but we think it'll probably happen. We suspect that gas will go down, gas and diesel and heating oil and all that stuff will probably go down. Gas will go down about $1 a gallon. Diesel probably about the same, and I don't know where heating oil goes. Natural gas, for those of you who use natural gas, will probably go down. I don't know. I don't really follow it, to be honest with you, but it will go down. So that's a positive for your cost structure because, not only your trucks, but a lot of your raw materials use petroleum products, despite what the green folks say. So that's the situation on energy, we think. Some of you may get exposed to nuclear power plants, the small modular ones that are getting pushed because of the AI revolution going around, and that will continue to happen. And speaking of AI, we have a course which should get listed on our site within the next week or two, called The Street Smart Guide to AI, done by my friend and client and partner in crime occasionally, Peter Leifer, who is the head of PrimeView, a large digital marketing agency based here in Phoenix, and one of my clients for many years. I've read part of it. It's well worth reading, and it's the only book of its type because I've done 2 or 3 lectures on the use of AI in small business, and until Peter's book, there just wasn't anything out there. So AI is a factor. Read Peter's book and find out if it is relevant to you. It'll cost you a whole 99 cents. And I think it'll probably be worth multiples of that. So that's the AI situation. Let's see. What else have we got on our? Oh, tariffs in general. Tariffs are probably going to happen between us, US, and Canada and Mexico. But how much they're going to be and when they're going to go into effect is a really good question. We don't know because in his patented fashion, let's make a deal. Trump is working over the Canadians, especially the prime minister, and working over the Mexican premier. I think Trudeau realizes what hit him. And he's losing some of his provinces who have already said they want to do business with the US, especially Alberta on oil and gas, because a lot of our oil particularly comes from Alberta. So there's that. Nationally, internationally, if you import any goods from anywhere, there are probably going to be tariffs, although they're going to be selective, as you may or may not know, because importers have absorbed the tariffs from China. We still have Trump's tariffs on China in effect on Chinese produced goods. And the supposition is that Trump is going to increase the tariffs on China because they're still behaving badly on a variety of fronts, and he'll keep it on there until they start getting themselves under control. The number most associated with the increase is another 10%. At the moment, Canadian goods, excluding oil, are going to be tariffed at about 30%, but that might go away if Trudeau comes to his senses or whoever's going to replace him as prime minister in Canada. Mexico, Trump buffaloed the Manuel Lopez Obrador into zero tariffs on the Mexican side going into the US, but his successor, Claudia Pardo, as president, hasn't said which way she's going to go, although at the moment she's still planning on tariffing any goods out of Mexico um, at the rate of, I think, 30%. But the Mexicans only assess our goods going into Mexico at something like 5 or 8%. So Trump's point is he wants the Mexican tariffs down where our tariffs are. So I think he'll get there if you export to Mexico, as I know many of you probably do, or import something from Mexico. That's probably where that will go. So the last thing I want to talk about is the impact of people. When I first started recording this, which was about a month ago, the people equation looked like it was going to be pretty much you could grab people wherever you found them because the employment situation was not wonderful. However, since then, the economy has kind of firmed up again because of that guy in the White House. And by the way, he is a Wharton classmate of mine, so that's how we know each other. And I think that the people equation is probably going to be a little bit tighter than originally forecast. Even the December jobs number, which normally gets revised down because the Labor Department has got its finger on the number, actually got revised up for December another 25,000. So we added 225,000 jobs nationally in December, which is kind of interesting. Seasonally, it's probably a good number. January is going to be down. Nobody knows how much, but the seasonal people go away. The guesstimate is something like 175,000. Now, nationally, that's one thing, but locally, I think what it probably means is that here in Arizona, the labor situation is kind of tight. Everybody who wants a job has got a job. The governor does not particularly push people to go to work, as in Ducey. Ducey actually had a workfare program, and it looks like more states are going to adopt a workfare program because of pressure from Trump, which leads us also to the migrant situation, which is good news and bad news. The good news is that there are actually a lot of quality people who migrated to the United States legally or illegally. We've certainly seen it here in Arizona, but it's not so bad. People are standing around on the corner of Shea Boulevard and whatever in the local Home Depot parking lot looking for work. I think the economy has been strong despite our governor's goofball antics, and it will probably continue to be strong. We've added something like anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million migrantes to the Arizona list. Unusually, we have not had the criminal problem, to my knowledge, in Arizona that the other states have gotten, because even though we have a Democratic governor, we have a really strong, tough police chief in Phoenix, and what she says goes, and the cops all know that. So we are probably well ahead of even the ICE people in arresting illegals who have committed crime. The rest of them, as Tom Homan says, the worst are going to get deported first. And that's a good thing. There are a lot of quality people who have actually come into the labor force, and they are willing to work cheaply. Some of them we know, are already working illegally, getting paid in cash. We know what's going on here in Arizona and probably nationally. So the labor situation is sort of in flux. We've got the migrants, which have added God knows how many people to the labor force, probably somewhere between 10 and 20 million, which would put downward pressure on basic entry-level wages. Now, most of you may not be concerned about that. I have some clients who are, and nationally, it's certainly a consideration. So the labor situation is probably fairly good. We suspect that, and we've advocated this in Twitter and on our blog column, that the migrants should go get green cards. It's not that hard. So the lines at the border might be replaced with lines at the INS office here in Phoenix to get green cards and get themselves in the system if they really want to stay. Otherwise, they're likely to get deported, which will put some upward pressure on wages. So the labor situation is a little bit fluid for the skilled people. I think that'll continue to be a seller's market where they can pretty much get a job and get what they're asking in the way of wages. My older grandson, both of my kids own their own businesses, surprise, surprise, but their kids are starting to work in the labor force. My second oldest grandson he went to work for AutoZone and got promoted in a year to be an assistant store manager. So that's kind of an archetype of what you might be facing. My younger daughter, who is more liberal, has just started her first job, and I think she just got fired. So that'll be a learning experience. And I've got one over in Colorado who has worked off and on, but she's a superstar student, so she's probably going to college. We don't know yet. But your kids should be a barometer to what's going on in the economy, in the labor situation. So basically, that is it. We are probably going to update this at 3 or 6 months intervals because of the colorful occupant of the White House. I do send him text to his cell phone and tweet about it fairly regularly. Look for us on Twitter, by the way, at the Solutions or Solutions Forum, the Solutions Forum at Twitter, or Solutions Forum on Twitter. You can get a lot of good business information, and you can go to our Small Business Success School site and look on our blog, because we blog there probably once a week, just on what we think is going on in the business community. We have a second blog called Entrepreneurial News, which is a longer form, which we put the stuff of use we think to entrepreneurs. So no self plugs, even though I own the school. And that's the way we see it here in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, with that nice picture behind me, which happens to be of not Iron Dome, but the dome in Yosemite in California. So be well, prosper, live long and prosper, as they say in Star Trek, and we'll be talking to you. Thanks for listening and watching and buying courses.